Hey everybody. Tonight we're going to do something a little different. This is just going to be my thoughts on video, and tonight I want to talk about something that's been bugging me quite a bit lately. I want to talk about aquarium hobby bullies. And bullies might be a bit of a strong word, but it's the only word that really works for what I'm thinking about. And I see this all the time. I'll see people that get belittled for questions they ask. I'll see people whose, tanks get berated because you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. And that kind of stuff just really bothers me. I don't really understand where people get satisfaction out of that or why people get satisfaction out of that. But I'm not, this isn't going to be a psychology video. I just want to express my thoughts on two particular types of bullies that I see on a regular basis. And I know two of these people in real life, and that's really why it just really hits home with me. And I'm not talking about anybody specific, so if anybody that's watching this video thinks this is in reference to some comment you've made or something like that recently, that's your own ego. This is not about anything like that. This is just very generalized. I've just kind of been thinking about this all day. And it's been bugging me. And again, I do know this one individual in my real life who I was talking to the other day, which probably is what got this whole thing started. And I'll start with that individual. This individual owned a fish store, and he actually kind of fits two categories. He owned a fish store, and he owned it a long time ago. So he throws that around as though I've been keeping fish since way back when, yada yada. And he also throws around this, I owned a fish store crap. And he's, he thinks he's going to intimidate me when he says that stuff, and he's just wrong. It doesn't. And it doesn't. I've had a few people try to throw that stuff at me on my channels. They generally don't comment very long because it just doesn't intimidate me. I don't care if you ran a fish store for 20 years. Honestly, all that tells me is you ran a store for 20 years. You know how to pay employees and, lock the doors at night and so on and so forth. You can reorder stock when you sell out a certain fish. It doesn't even say you were good at running a store for 20 years. You just managed to keep a store running for 20 years. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean you're not an expert on fish. You may be. You may not be. I don't know. But telling me you ran a fish store for 20 years doesn't tell me anything other than you ran a store for 20 years. It does not intimidate me. Telling me that you've been keeping fish since the 1950s does not intimidate me. In my experience, people that have been doing things, regardless of what thing it was, for 50 or 60 years, generally tend to think that some point about 20 years ago is when the pinnacle of whatever it was achieved. And this one particular individual I know who kept a store in the 80s, I swear he thinks that there has been no progress or anything in the fish keeping world since 1989. Like, that apparently was the pinnacle of when fish were kept. So this is a person who, again, when he tells me I've been keeping fish since, the 70s, that does not intimidate me. I don't care. I knew one guy that told me that he had been doing something for 20 years, and when I was telling him he was doing it wrong, and I can understand why he took offense to it. I was, I had 5 minutes experience with fish at this time, but what he told me sounded so wrong that I went home and looked it up, and I found out that it was so wrong. I could not believe he was so irresponsible as to tell people what he was telling people as advice. He was the manager of the aquatics department at a big chain fish store, and he went on about the 20 years experience, and he breeds and so on and so forth. And the advice he gave me was astonishingly bad. If I had done it, I would have wiped out half my tank. So I learned very early on, and it's just my personality anyway. I don't generally get intimidated by anybody because your opinion doesn't really matter to me, honestly. So this guy telling me he's got 20 years of experience, he's been doing it that way for 20 years. I told him straight up, okay, you've been doing it wrong for 20 years. I don't care if you've been doing it that way for 20 years. It doesn't make it the right way. It just means you've been doing it the wrong way for 20 years. So that doesn't fly with me if you just tell me you've been doing something for a long time. So when I see people on other people's channels that are throwing this stuff around or whatever, bring that over to my channel and see how it flies. Throw that kind of stuff at me and see if I back down because you tell me you used to run a fish store in the 80s. I don't care. I will take your statement at face value. I will read it, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Whether you kept fish for 50 years or not is not going to change whether it adds no weight to your statement, I guess is what I'm saying. I also want to make it very clear that if you're some 12-year-old kid who just learned something in science class today that sounds, what I just said doesn't sound right to you, you do not be intimidated by me either. I don't care if you are a 12-year-old kid. I'll listen to you the same way. That doesn't hold any weight for me either. I don't care if you're young or if you've just been in the hobby for a month or 2 months. If something sounds wrong to you, you can bring it up and mention it to me. And that's, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I have no issue with that. But this idea that people are going to go around and, like, I guess it's some kind of, you get some satisfaction out of, like, feeling like you're better than other people. I just don't even understand why there's this almost like this competition of, like, I'm better than you at keeping fish. That makes no sense to me. This to me is supposed to be a hobby that's supposed to bring us together. We're supposed to encourage each other and help each other and share information, not tear each other down and tell each other our tanks are crap and you shouldn't keep those kind of fish together. Or whatever. Everybody's got their own personality. I mean, within reason. Obviously, if fish are going to die because of the situation they're in, that's a different story. But you can still bring that up and address that without being a jerk. And you don't have to be a bully, and you don't have to belittle people and make them feel like they're dumb or whatever because they're not doing it right. And like I said, bring that to my channel. Bring it. I'm more than welcome. Any kind of comments you want to like that. Leave the kids alone. Leave the newbies alone. Bring that over here and see how it flies. And it's just, again, this has just been irritating me all week, and I feel like I needed to just vent that out. So we'll see how this video flies. I don't know. This is kind of a different one for me. Anyway, I feel better for getting that out. And like I said, feel free to comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I suspect a lot of people probably feel very similar to I, and that's probably a good thing. So again, feel free to comment. And before I keep just walking around here in circles and talking about the same thing over and over again, I'm going to wrap that up. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. I always try to encourage and support everybody, and again, I think you probably got the idea already. I think this is a hobby that we're all supposed to enjoy together. So go ahead and subscribe. I always do lots of videos. You never really know what you're going to get from me. As my regular viewers probably realize, this is a little bit outside the norm for me, as I've already said. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for humoring me. Hope I didn't annoy you too much with a little bit of a rant there, and I will see you on the next one. Hopefully it'll be a little more cheerful.